All right, so am I good? All right. All right, so does everybody know everybody? Just quick round the names. Start Brenda.
Grindstaff, Julie George, Ann Leatherwood, Deborah Duda, Rita Patrick, Lisa Wright, Robin Pick, Debbie Richmond, Jill.
Okay. All right. Tammy's here. So Brenda, Julie, Ann, Deb, Ruthie, Lisa, Robin, Debbie, and Jill. Caroline, our GM, is putting up bikes. I don't know how early in the morning she got here, but so excuse our mess. We're remodeling. It won't be much longer, and it'll be beautiful. So, okay, this is our first official ride leader training, ride guide training. So we're ride guides. We've changed our names, and sweeps are volunteers. So volunteers is a big umbrella term. If I forget something, and here's Janine. Say hi, Janine. That's okay. Find a chair. All right. So if I miss something, my point is I'd like to make this collaborative, so I'll bring up some stuff and it might make you think of something or something you've seen or has happened and we want to discuss it. That's our time here this morning. I also sent out late last night, I don't know if you all saw it, I don't remember what I sent out, it was so late. It was the Eventbrite. So those of you who were able to get on and reply to the RSVP, I invited you to join our volunteer group on Eventbrite, and this should enable you to use the app to check people in. So when I say should, I've never used it before, so I don't know. I know it works for me as the organizer, and you should have privileges to check people in. I activated that, so we'll give it a try. Okay. That's what this is for. All right. And Tammy. We introduced ourselves, so she's trying to sneak in. Be quiet. All right, so as we know, ride guides, so Robin and Abby and I discussed this. This is some things we've come up with, so you may have things to add or change. But somebody who can become familiar with a route can use a map, a cue sheet, or download routes. And if you don't know how to do some of those things, that's what we're here for today. And I can also do one-on-one help. So somebody who can maintain composure during an emergency, that's important. And always know, we'll talk about that in a little bit, because we can delegate tasks in an emergency. Somebody who knows the rules of the road and follows them. And somebody who's comfortable giving a pre-ride talk. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. So ride guides are also an encourager. If you take one and pass it down, give one to Tammy. So a ride guide might be somebody who maybe they don't want to be a guide, but maybe a volunteer wants to encourage and support and help. I'll give a perfect example. May Lynn, who we all know and love. I remember once we were rolling from Louisville Point Park, and I think Robin and I were going to be there like just a couple minutes before, not enough to get everybody started, and we were going to roll late. And I had 2 new people coming, and I email the volunteers every Friday night, or usually before I leave to take my son, sometimes after, to let you know who's coming for the group. And so I had sent that email. I said, we've got 2 new people. But they're not sure who they're going to ride with, that kind of thing. Well, by the time I got there, May Lynn had already found those 2 people, introduced herself to those 2 people, helped them find a group they'd feel comfortable with, and they were ready to go. I'm just like, wow. So that is an important role too, right? So somebody who's willing to just step in and kind of fill in the gaps when you see a need. All right. So that goes with the assisting. Another way to volunteer is to assist with a check-in. Maybe if you don't want a guide and you don't want to sweep, but you've got the app on your phone, because there's a lot going on. And when you're guiding a group, as you probably all have experienced, people come up to you and chat, they haven't seen you in a while, they want to talk and that kind of thing. And you get distracted. You're trying to get your bike ready and your stuff good to go before you can help other people. And then there's the whole check-in, talking about the routes, lots going on. So it's really helpful to have somebody to assist with the check-in. So hopefully the app will work and make that really easy for us. Somebody who assists or sweep, we don't want to leave folks behind. I kid that like, oh, we're short 1 or 2, but really we don't want to be short 1 or 2. So somebody that helps ensure everybody's having a good time. You know, just kind of checking in with people, letting them know, hey, how's it, you know, just chatting and just have fun. Somebody to take pictures. I always say I'm going to take a picture during clinic seat and I forget. So we're doing video, so I'm going to take a pan really quick. Okay, I'm serious. I always forget this stuff. Okay, here we go. All right, because, yes, posture ladies. Okay, so, because, you know, on Facebook, people don't know what we're doing this stuff, so I'll post pictures. So somebody that's taking pictures to post or share in our group. There's a typo, yeah. Thank you for that. So I'll fix it. So, and anything else, any other hashtags you want. So what do you, what else, what am I missing? Oh, right, yeah. So for another example, and this is especially so for beginners, I mean, Abby's one person, right? She's leading, she's teaching, she's sweeping. You know, she usually recruits volunteers to help sweep, but sometimes there might be a new person who is new to cycling and just needs to turn back. And it doesn't matter that it's River Road and out and back. If you're new to bike riding, you don't want to be sent back by yourself. You know, so what does she do? You know, so what we discussed is she needs helpers to know in advance that she has them there. So if she needs to turn back with a beginner, hi Hallie, that she can appoint somebody else to take over and guide the group for the rest of the ride, you know, and so we need people to step up to do that sort of thing. Thanks, Robin, that's a great example.
Would they be part of Abby's group or from another group?
Probably part of Abby's group because we're never riding with the beginners. So if you were here Thursday night, we talked about, or the other night, one of the nights, how we ride in an area each Saturday. And so I try to create the routes so that they overlap one another. So we may not exactly start at the same pace or place because each group has different needs and abilities, but we'll see each other. So there might be an opportunity to help in and jump Abby, jump in and help Abby. I'm sorry, I'm doing that a lot lately. But don't count on it.
I think the only other thing that I didn't see, but we sometimes deal with is equipment. You know, people don't have their lights on or their helmets aren't on correctly or fitted.
Sure.
Sometimes as a ride guide, we have to
Check equipment.
realize it and then tactfully address it.
That's, yes, thank you for that too. So Abby does that also. She does helmet checks.
My helmet before.
Yeah. I've learned from Abby to, yeah. Who has Abby helped with their helmet, right? Probably all of us, right? So hopefully I helped alleviate her load there on a Thursday night. We talked about helmet adjustments with the new folks. So, but anyway, so equipment, checking equipment in the beginning, making sure, and we'll touch on that some more, being able to size up whether somebody is truly ready for the ride that we're about to embark on. Do they have 2 water bottles in the middle of the heat? Do they have snacks? This is hard because you don't always think about looking at somebody's feet. Are they wearing tennis shoes? Or are they clipping in? You know, so, yeah. So, you know, and I'll continue to tell the groups, you know, when I have clinics, that is our role, that we're not trying to boss you around or tell you what to do, or it's about safety, and we're here to support them. You know, they can take the advice or not. You can lead a horse to water, you know, but if they, you know, but to know that that's not the intent. The intent is to make sure everybody's going to have a good time. So, what volunteers have? Okay. Skills. Is that you, Julie? Who is this? Who are these people?
That's an old, that's Sarah.
That is.
Lowell on the left.
Okay, Sarah Lowell, yeah. And who is this? I don't know either. Okay. It's been a while, but I love that picture. I use it in a lot of things because that's a Fix-A-Flat clinic.
That's 2016.
Okay. Wow. Great memory, Dad.
Well,
Great
she
memory.
was she's my friend, and that was
Okay.
she,
Oh, okay. Okay, great. So you're not going to leave the shop with all these skills today if you don't have some of them, but there will be opportunities for you too, right, with these clinics and stuff. And if you know you can't make a clinic, just shoot me a text and say, hey, I'm not comfortable fixing a flat and I can't make the clinic, and if I can't help you, one of the guys here, you can come in and, and they'll talk you through it while they're working on bikes or what have you. So, yeah, if somebody throws a chain, that happens often, that type of thing. And, if you don't have the experience, you're not expected to be the know-all, be-all, okay? You don't have to know everything, but you should be willing to learn, right? Did you agree, Robin?
Yes.
Yes. So you should be willing to.
Somebody else and I gotta know.
Yeah.
There's gotta be one person.
Yeah.
There's gotta be one person that knows the chain back on.
Yeah. So Robin said there's got to be one person, at least somebody in the group that knows how to do these things.
For me, I have to do it every year. If I don't replace my wheel, and John will get out there and start to do it for me. Look, you can't do it for me.
Mhm.
I have to be able to do this completely by myself. I might be a little stressed, and I have to get those little things under the rim of the bike and pull it all the way around. And it is hard to get that second one under and started. You can't do it for me. I have to be able, and I have to do it once a year. I don't do it once a year. I mean,
Right. Exactly.
shot, to be able to, especially if you want any speed.
Right. Exactly. If you want to get good at it. So Hallie's saying that we all need to practice once a year. It's not just Hallie. It's me. I'm guessing it's probably everybody. And you just get better at it with practice. I remember Jana. If anybody remembers Jana, her first flat change with the group. I think she was leading too. Maybe I'm not sure, but how excited she was and how everybody was so happy that she was willing to step up and try. I remember my first flat change. I was out on the old Parkway, just up towards the first overlook, just getting started, and I had a lady with me who was from out of town but wanted to train for Ride the Rockies. So I take her on the Parkway and I flat almost at that pull-off. So I pulled off in the parking lot and I'm trying to change the flat, and this guy comes along. He's riding up the Parkway and he pulls in. He said, "Can I help you ladies?" And I said, "No, I think we got it." He said, "Can I watch?" Because I don't know how to do it. I'm like, "Sure." And then when we got back to the shop, I came in and Mike Stewart was the service manager then. I was like, "I did it, Mike, I did it. I changed the flat on the road." But once you do it, it's not as big of a deal. And plus, secretly, some people are probably like, "Oh, thank God we're stopping." Because maybe they're hurting or they need to rest. And other people just sit and chat and eat snacks and stuff. So, okay. So most of this talk is about guides. But really, if you think about it, these responsibilities can be divvied up. But a ride guide, I'm going to use the word leader, doesn't have to be in the front all the time. And we talked about this Thursday night because the person in the front is doing 100% of the work. And if you're pulling a pace line or something, you don't want that. Now if it's some people that are super strong, we all know who they are, they probably will be fine. But, they put themselves there. But, you don't want to put the designated ride guide in the front all the time. She's going to wear out, So let her roll to the back. So a good ride guide can lead from the middle, can lead from the back. And the good thing about being in back is that you can see people, what they're doing. Are they holding a line? Do they get in a situation where they cross the double yellow? Are they, getting in traffic? Are they too far over to the side? Do they swerve? Do they lollygag around like this? All that stuff you can't see from the front. So I actually like it better in the back, just because I can't keep up in the front, but also to see how things are going. So,
And Deb had no problem with me yelling, "Red jacket, scoot over!" I kept getting too close, and I didn't realize
Going
I was
over a
really
hill, and she was way over here in the middle of the lane, and I'm like,
And so she kept yelling, "Red jacket," because she didn't know who I was. But it was helpful because
Yeah.
but she
Yeah.
had no problem saying it, and I needed to hear it.
yeah. And so that's good. Ann is willing to learn and take advice, and hopefully that's what all the ladies are here for. And I'll keep reminding them that's what we're about. And you've got to remember that people that ride off the front of the group, maybe they're boogieing it on a Strava segment or something, or they fall too far off the back, they're not with the group. And that's person off the front, that's their choice. Person off the back, it may not be their choice, sort of. They did choose the group, but ultimately they're not with the group. So the group might turn, right? So, you can't run ahead and catch the fast person that's gone off the front. But anyway, but you can guide from any place in the group is my point. Okay, so the pre-ride talk. So we talked on Thursday night about how 15 minutes early for a ride is probably not early enough. I am time management challenged. Tammy's laughing her butt off over here.
That's a very delicate way to say that. We love you. She's got some delicate.
I am time management challenged. Okay, I can't look at her. I'm just going to keep laughing. So we kind of made an executive decision Thursday night that ride check-in is 30 minutes before the ride. It starts 30 minutes before the ride. So get there a half an hour before.
Just remember, Jackie, you're supposed to model the expected behavior.
I'm supposed to model the expected behavior.
Right.
I can think on the hour and a half hour. So if I get there, then we might roll early. Who knows, right? Wouldn't that be a nice, pleasant change? So get there 30 minutes early. That's the official check-in start time. And the ride talk should happen no later than 5 minutes before we roll. So if everybody is coming 30 minutes early and they're ready, start your talk, And the talk, you can get that information from the email I send out, which if you checked in last night, I put in that email the types of things that I cover in the Eventbrite email. So there's always going to be a section on what to expect. So that's where I'll put things like there's going to be a blind hill or blind curve and a hill in the first mile, and traffic's busy out on Ellajoy when you turn left on River Ford, or whatever it is, So those things, people don't always read the whole email, right? They just want to go click, click, they're done, and they're on to other things. But that's important. So I would reiterate those things. You can print off the email if that helps or whatever. Just highlight the 2 or 3 things or 4 things to talk about the route. And then, like I mentioned, eyeball their bikes, water, snacks, shoes, clothing for like spring and fall. Encourage them to bring more. Does it look like their bike can make the trip? Those kinds of things. And I try to catch things early on. Like I say, I send a weekly email on Fridays with the RSVP list. So I look to see, are there only 2 people signed up for one group or 1 person for one group? And I contact them ahead of time to say, hey, this is the situation. You might be fine with it, or you might want to change groups. So I kind of try to preempt that. But they might ask you. They might say, do I need to be in this group? Is this too much for me? If somebody ever says, is this too much for me? It's too much for them. Just assume that it is and say, well, it's your first ride with us. Why don't you ride with the next group, the next pace down, or down's not the right, what I mean, the other group and that way you'll know that where you fit next time. Start off easy and then try something harder later. Or if they've never ridden in a group, they might want to start with the beginners. So, Ann.
Airing our tires, and for maybe a new rider who doesn't know that they should check their tires every time they ride, is this something we should make sure we have our pump with us, or ask people, or just assume that they've taken care of it and not worry about it? I know it's kind of vague.
I assume people have taken care of it, but in the beginning of the season, it's always good to remind people, because they'll air it up the night before and think that's good enough. And if they haven't been on their bike all winter, it could lose air just overnight. It might go flat overnight, Or if they air it up the night before, it still could lose 10 pounds of pressure if it's cold, So, yeah, a good reminder too early in the season, and I'll try to do the same in my emails. So when we finish this recording, I'll be watching it later, so I'm saying these things out loud so I can make myself a note to do these things I say I'm going to do. All right.
And then you can ask too, if everybody checked in, because that's a new process.
Has everybody checked in? Yes. So Robin said this.
Doing that because this is accountability to make sure that lock everybody out there.
Right. And there's,
We're used to signing in, but this is supposed to hopefully.
right. Hopefully this will work. And if you're technology challenged, that's okay. You just bring a piece of paper and a pen, okay? And just write it down. You know, or if you know everybody's faces, you know who they are, just take a picture of everybody, but then you've got to tell me who they are because I probably will not know who everybody is if it's a group I'm not used to writing with. So, or I know them, I recognize them, but I forget their names. So, so the writer check-in on the app. Okay, I took screenshots. Don't worry about reading all this small stuff because I know it's hard with the bright lights and stuff. But you can go to your iPhone and download the Eventbrite app onto your phone for both Android and Apple. And so for the most current ride that's coming up, your most current event, that's the list of participants that you'll see. It'll pull you up in, let's see, navigation tab, orders. Yes?
The one with the E?
Yeah, it's the one with the
There's an
E.
orange one and a
The,
black
the,
one.
oh, the first one.
It's the orange one.
Yeah. Yeah, one was for business, and so just use the first one. I guess the business one has more features. They might make you pay for it. Okay, so yeah, so I'm just loading this too. So there's there's 3 dots here. You know, you might want to click that and see if it's not here, if the people don't pull up right away, to choose the correct order. You might have responded to 2 rides at once. Sometimes we have that. We might have a dragon ride in the middle of the week and a Saturday ride, or a moonlight ride on a Friday night and then a Saturday ride, that sort of thing. Pull up the right one. And then, I'm sorry, I forgot my reading glasses. Thank you. Okay, can't even read my own handwriting with glasses half the time. Okay, all right, so if you, on the bottom navigation, anyway, we'll play with it. It's under the bottom navigation tab called Orders. I don't see that there in my screenshots.
Sign up for just that particular ride, or all the people who sign up to ride that day?
It's everybody.
Everybody. Not just the new people or the C people, it's
That's a good question because Deb asked, is this everybody for the whole Saturday, or is this just the group to which you responded for the ticket? I think it's the group for the ticket you responded to, the ticket you purchased, I think. I don't know, I've not used this before. Somebody repeat what Lisa said. I don't want to stress your voice. She's got laryngitis.
But how to get to that spot?
How to get to that spot? I had to play with it myself. Let me pull it up on my phone. So we're going to take a few minutes and try to get comfortable with this app here. All right.
all it shows is my ticket, it doesn't show anybody else's ticket.
Let me see. Did you, so those of you who accepted my invitation, who accepted the invitation to join the volunteer group? Lisa did, Deb.
Said someone has already accepted for you, request another invitation.
Yes, that's what I
That's
got.
what happened to me too. So when I sit this, let me show you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is your email. I've downloaded the app. I was already signed in and had already purchased a ticket.
Somebody
that's
already
the error that
registered
I
with
get.
this.
And when I follow these directions, it directs me to go to the app organizer version. And I just downloaded
Somebody
the
already
organizer
registered.
version, and it doesn't work that way either. I feel like I'm probably,
Let's see.
um,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have that same exact screenshot you.
Okay. So last night, I seen that Anne had accepted it. Let's see who's on the group now.
Do they all need unique invitations?
They might all need unique
Well,
invitations.
that's kind of a drag for you.
Yeah, I was trying to,
Send
there was
everybody one.
there was a way to copy the link to invite. All right, let's do it here. All right, Janine, Skipper, right?
Yes.
Skipper what?
8670 at yahoo.com.
Yeah, I think I did click on it and it said it's already been.
Okay. So your invitation has been created. So you should have gotten an email, or you are getting an email from the system. Let's see. All right, Brenda, email address. bggrindstaff@gmail.com. Oops. I thought I did.
Someone already registered with this organization.
Okay, it just created, it's sending your invitation now.
To everybody?
Brenda. Yeah, one at a time. Okay, Julie.
Julie Griffin George at
Spell Julie.
JULIE GRIFFIN George Fiore at Gmail.
I don't know why it's making me type it twice.
Exactly.
Yeah, nothing's ever.
Call that a test and say, okay, it works, we'll do it all later.
I think we need to do it now. This is what we've got the time for. So otherwise. All right, Anne's on. Well, you're on. So, okay, Deb.
Yes.
Tell me your email.
Doodad57 @gmail.
All right, Ruthie.
RAPatrick57 @gmail.
I've been on it before. Oh, okay. I actually signed up before. This time, I signed up before. And I remember.
Okay. It should be sending, Ruthie. Those of you who have already added, have you received the invite? Okay, hold on. Hallie, what's your email? So, has anybody been able to accept their invitation now that I'm adding you individually?
I didn't get
No?
I don't have it yet. You might have to refresh.
Okay. We might have to have a Zoom on this. We might have to Zoom before. Lisa, it's L. Thank you.
Your poor voice.
I know.
I'm so sorry.
All right.
Janine, have you gotten an email yet?
I did, but it really didn't change anything.
She's been sick.
It's just an app that kind of gives you your ticket. So I've got the event that shows up, and I just get my ticket.
Debbie, what's your email? All right, I'm almost done. All right. And Jill, what's your email address? Gosh, Jill, you have to make it so complicated using your first and last name. All right. Okay, so this is what I suggest that. Thank you, Ann. I'm going to set up a Zoom for next week. If you can make it, that's great. Maybe I'll send out a quick scheduler, select your availability out of 2 or 3 choices, and we'll do Zoom because I can't, as you can tell, do it all by myself. I have to have people to receive it and test it and all that stuff. And so you guys will help me test it, run through it, get it to work so we can get it to work by Saturday. Yes?
We have progress.
Oh, progress. That would be good.
So in the group, she's got her email, I got my email and following it all through.
Got my
Share
email.
2 minutes. No, I'm just in there, but it's.
Okay. All right, so we'll continue to play with this. We're going to put it on pause. It took me a while just last night. Of course, I'm doing it last night to get it figured out. I had to Google a couple of help pages. I've got a couple of links since I've already searched them up. I'll include that in my email to you. Okay, so you have it. But anyway, once it works, you see the list of people. We don't know yet if this is just for one ticket or all tickets, but we'll figure that out. And then there's a button called check-in. You can also scan, but we're not having physical tickets. So you just click check-in. That person pulls up, click on a person, and then click check-in. So something like that.
Could you print that page for us at some point, or
Yeah, I'll send you the
screenshot it?
yeah, I'll send you the PowerPoint for everybody. So
Part right there.
okay. The ABC Quick Check. So we talked about this a couple of times. If you want it, please take one and pass it around. Your sister might want one, I don't know. What's the question? Oh, the ABC Quick Check? Yeah. I'm sending it out to everybody. Yeah. So, yes. So we talked about this on Thursday. When I send out the link to the video, I'm going to include the handouts. All right. Quick check. We already talked about this stuff. Remind group of communicating. So I learned how to be a ride guide from Eddie, watching Eddie Sloan over the years lead rides. And the shop always does a pre-ride talk. But Eddie was always good, since it was a week-to-week thing, to talk about what happened last time. You know, he would say, I saw last time in our group that not everybody's passing it up. When there's a car back, you say car back. When there's a car up, you say car up, and you pass it up, and you reiterate that stuff, because people forget. Or if he sees somebody crossing double yellows or somebody not holding a line. So anyway, feel free to do that. Because at the end of the day, we want to be safe. So on regrouping, you might not know where to stop because you've never ridden that route before. That's okay. I'll try to say, I'll note some good stuff. I know on the Ride with GPS app, I can start adding pins on where the rest stops are. I just haven't done it before, so I'm going to start doing that so everybody knows. If you're spreading out, especially on a climb, you could say whoever gets to the top first, that person stop and pick a regroup spot that's off the road. So that way you're not, that way the group doesn't get divided into two, and you don't feel like you have to be that first person if you're just not able to be that first person. You don't have to be. and encourage them to use pull-offs. So we talked about that, not to stop in the middle of the road. Don't stop people in the middle of the road. You know, and I do that too. Tammy's laughing because it's like I see her stop in the middle of the road all the time. But no, I'm just kidding, sort of. But anyway, like for example, River Road, when we get to Townsend and Kinsel Springs, people stop at that stop sign. It's a good break spot. People want to get their snacks out and everything. Don't just keep rolling around the corner. Maybe go to the greenway or pull off in someone's driveway to kind of get the group to one side. So we need to do better about that. And you remind them. That's a good reminder in the beginning of a ride until we all get back into that habit. Feedback. So, you know, I've had people say to me, I can't tell somebody how to do something on their bike. I'm no expert. I don't know how to, you know, what kind of chain that is or what kind of gearing that is or how an e-bike works or, you know, so you don't have to. What kind of feedback they need from somebody is when they're not doing something safe, okay? So can I pick on you, Ann? So I'm going to pick on Ann because she's a good sport. So we had boot camp last year, and Ann, it was her first ride with a group and probably one of her first early rides with her e-bike. So we went up to Tremont, and we came back down out of Tremont, and I'm waiting to make sure everybody comes back down, and so I'm letting people pass me, and they know to regroup at that pull-off at the Y. And so Joe, I fall back, and then there's Joe, and he passes me. I said, "Where's Ann?" He said, "Oh, she's coming," you know, and he goes on. I'm like, "Okay," you know, and there's no Ann, you know, and Joe's gone, and I'm like, "Okay, well." So I get to the pull-off with everybody else, and I turn around, and I just sit there on my bike, and I watch the intersection. I'm waiting for Ann. Ann comes through, she's flying because she's worried that the group is going to drop her. So, I mean, she's on an e-bike. She's like, bam, you know, and she didn't even look, blew off that stop sign 100%. She was too worried about the group. And there was a car coming, and it was within seconds of hitting her, even though it was going slow because it was approaching a yield or a stop sign or whatever, stop sign. You know, timing had been different. It could have been bad news. And so right then and there, I said, "Hey, come here for a minute."
I got the talk.
And she got the talk, you know. And so later on in boot camp, several weeks later, we went up to Elkmont and came back through, and at Tremont and back through. And so Stephanie Boyd and Ann were riding together. They came, and I did the same thing. I stopped right there. I'm leaning on my bike. I'm waiting. And here they come. They come to the stop sign. Ann came to a full stop, put her feet on the ground. I'm like, I'm so proud of her. But, you know, so it's about being safe. That you can give advice on, right? So if somebody's not holding a line, not stopping at intersections, it's okay to have a difficult conversation. It's how you deliver the conversation, right? So say, you know, "Hey, I think you're doing great. I noticed, you know," just speak for yourself, right? That's what we always say. The you conversations you avoid, you say, "It worried me when I saw you cross that double yellow. I got scared because it was a blind hill, and I was worried that because a car was going to come or something, and you know, and it would have been awful." So just speak for yourself. You know, that way you're not having to say you should do this, should do that. Just, you know, something, and you'll know because you'll get that feeling. You'll be like, "Oh, that makes me nervous." That's when you know you have to have a conversation, and just pick the right time and right place. And if somebody's struggling too hard, and I'll use myself as an example, I was riding with a group on a Thursday, and we were over on Cameron behind Townsend. Hilly, curvy, right? And the group was way too fast for my ability, and it was their recovery ride. And I'm doing everything. I knew that I would get dropped on Cameron if I couldn't keep up because of the hills. And so I'm busting my butt trying to do everything I can. You know, I round this corner, and then a cyclist comes up next to me. His name is Joe, and he said to me, he said, "At least look the next time you cut me off." You know, I was like, "I cut you off?" Which I didn't know, and I didn't look, you know, and I've never done that since. Ever since then, I almost look to the point of, "Will you stop looking already? Go ahead and move over." You know? because I don't want to cut somebody off. So yeah, so that was
Probably a pretty tactful way for him to bring that to your attention.
yeah,
I mean, it was private.
it was private.
I just told you the facts.
Yeah,
Moved on.
just the facts
Now
and
we're
moved
friends
on.
again. It's
Yeah,
all good.
yeah,
Could have
exactly.
ended very badly. That's,
Yeah.
Guys are
Yeah,
better.
yeah,
Just cut,
yeah,
boom, now we're done. We're worried about hurting feelings.
yeah. We were about.
Just chasing it, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's gone. I was like, oh wow,
Well, if I
yeah,
say something immediately, if somebody's on the double yellow lane or approaching the hill, I'll yell right then, like, get over, this is a blind hill. This is
Yeah.
a child running in the road.
or I'll say to somebody that I know, in my opinion, should move over because of cars back and blind hills. I'll say, you're clear now. You know, you can come on over now. And I've got a rider that's notorious for that, and he just keeps on blah, 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 talking, you know, and sometimes he hears me. But anyway, yeah, so you can just say it when you see it out loud. You know, there's a blind hill coming. We all, you know, let's all get over. Let's single up. You know, just say, let's single up.
A good phrase that my supervisor shared with our group is care enough to confront.
There you go.
If you're caring about the people in your group, you've got to care enough to confront if you're worried about
Yeah.
having those difficult conversations.
Yeah, that's good. So Deb said, care enough to confront. That's, yeah. And it's hard sometimes, but, you know, just remind yourself of that. Come on. Okay. This is me trying to keep up with groups too fast for me. So you kind of want to spot that. If I see somebody that is already falling back in the group, only halfway through the ride, we're not even halfway through, that person's going to have trouble for the remainder of the ride. So kind of keep an eye out for that. Remind people to drink their water. I'm a world's worst for not drinking my water, especially in the winter. So she always reminds me. So, you know, you can just tell the group, hey, is everybody drinking? You know, when you're stopped and they're snacking and stuff, don't forget to drink. You know, if you find out somebody is on some kind of crazy diet before the ride, remind the group that, you know, being on a diet and not eating before a ride is a recipe for trouble. Yes, Brenda.
If you identify that someone is in over their head,
Yes.
do you turn back? Do you just keep going? Help them keep going? What do you do if that person's really truly struggling?
Okay, so Brenda asked, what do you do if that person really is truly struggling? Once you spot it, what do you do? Great question. I would first drop back with that person and ride next to them and chat with them and say, hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? And then just listen to whatever they have to say.
Could be as simple as they're not drinking, they're eating, and
Yeah,
try that versus maybe just not.
yeah. It,
Case by case, different riders may have a different plan. They may have an idea of how to get themselves out of the situation. It may be more something that they can offer. Hey, you know what, my sister-in-law lives right up here. I'm kind of moving along. I'm just going to pull in. If they, to me, observing, if they really don't have a clue that they have a problem, getting that conversation going about how they feel like how they're doing, do you realize that, you know, this might not go well if we do another 20. How are you feeling about the rest of our ride? And seeing what they say, and then kind of acting appropriately. I don't know that there's going to be a cookie cutter,
Right.
you're lagging too much, therefore we're going to have to cut you loose, and somebody's going to have to break off, and somebody's going to have to
So to recap, so what do you say? Robin says, you know, it could be something as simple as eating or drinking, which by that point, if they're already struggling, they're already bonking, you know. Or, you know, there's no cookie cutter answer for the question, as Julie pointed out, but have that conversation and open it up, because they probably already have a plan in their mind, like, I can't keep up, I'm just going to turn back at some point, you know, or whatever. So, you know, that's what you would do. Ultimately, I've been in situations where I've had to stop, and that person needs to sit down in the shade, and I sit down with them, and we just sit and we chat. You know, if it goes into an emergency, and there's an emergency plan, we're going to talk through that before we end today, then you need to follow the plan. So a worst case scenario, I had a rider show up on a Tuesday, Thursday ride in July or August, I think. And he said he did Ragbri a month ago, which is the ride across Iowa, you know, and so indicating that he can do long distance rides, you know. So we get out there, we're in South Knox, which is hilly, and we get 20 miles into the ride and he's way, you know, he keeps falling back. So I fall back, and J-Mac, my friend who's riding, fell back with me. And so we just kind of stayed with him. We stopped in the shade on Andy Harris, at which point he acted like he was having a seizure. He was conscious, but he had to lay down on the ground. He's going like this. He says, I got a cramp. And we're like, what can we do? What can we do? Help me stand up. So we each grab his hand. We help him. Now he's standing like this, you know. And then I'm like, what do you need? He said, in my saddlebag, I've got some medicine. That would have been a good thing to tell me before we rolled, you know. I'm like, okay. So, you know, I get it out, and I poured in my hand. I said, now what? He went, and licked the palm of my hand. It was so gross. I was like, oh, God. Oh, it was awful. And I'm like, okay, I'm calling 911. So I called an ambulance. They checked him out. He was mad that I called an ambulance. Tough noogies for that, you know. So let them check you out. They checked him out. He refused the ambulance. So I called the shop, and somebody came and got him and brought him back. But that's worst case scenario. And that's only happened once in 9 years. So, yeah. But just know that, I know.
I think that, I could be wrong here, don't send me the bill, but if you call 911 and they decline the ambulance, there's not a bill.
Right. There's not a bill.
There's not a bill.
Right.
So, good idea. I'm so glad you
Yes.
called the ambulance.
Just call, you know, it's free unless they ride, in which case it goes on them. So,
So
Ann.
is there a any place where you try to get information like, okay, do you have a medical condition we need to be aware of? I mean, I used to be in charge of the soccer and rugby team and getting emergency information, but is there something we need to be aware of? Like the kid, I'm driving to a rugby game and his mother called and said, I forgot to send his EpiPen. But what does he need an EpiPen for?
right,
It wasn't
right.
his form. He's allergic to the cold.
Yeah,
And he actually goes into,
Sure.
he actually has to have EpiPen.
Yeah.
And it was a cold, rainy night.
yeah.
And it was like, well, that was not on any paperwork.
That's a great question, and it would probably need to be added to the registration form. So what I can do is send out an email and ask people to respond if there's something we need to be aware of before we go on a ride, and I'll give examples: EpiPen, seizures,
I mean, extreme reaction
you
to
know,
a bee sting.
reactions to stings, yeah, inhalers, asthma, stuff like that. You can ask them that, yeah, in the pre-ride. Yeah. Yeah, are there any medical issues that the group needs to be aware of? Just ask them in the pre-ride too. And you can ask them every single time if you want to, because you might have new people or a new person. Or, you know, if you've got return people, don't bug them to death with that question. But if you've got somebody new in the group, just introduce, in that getting to know people talk that you have with a new person,
Time for show and tell.
that is when you also ask, is there any medical condition I need to be aware of?
Jill has a show and
Jill has a show.
The road ID, yeah. We need to have a road ID clinic, you
They're
know?
like the cheapest things ever.
So,
50% off.
yeah. Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah,
You have to tell the people in your group you have a road ID so they know to look.
yeah. Okay.
Jack, you have a question. Back to your riding and the person doesn't think they're gonna be able to continue to ride and they wanna turn back.
Uh-huh.
Does the sweep go back with them? Do you let them go back independently?
If, you know, usually somebody, like a friend that is with them will say, I'll ride back with her. But if there is nobody in that case, then as a sweep, I would, and if they're newer, I would go back with them as a sweep. As a sweep, yeah. Figure it out as you go.
you'll know if they're comfortable.
Yeah. I would tend not to, if they're struggling and they're not physically feeling well, to have somebody go back with them. Because you don't want something to happen.
Say, no, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, I have a really big fear of rain, and last year we had kind of a long ride going up to DuPont, and I enjoyed that ride. I love that ride. We were kind of rolling the dice. And
Oh, I remember that.
ultimately, it was not a bad day. It really
Uh-huh.
wasn't. It was really a fine day.
Yeah.
But I was really afraid it was going to rain. You know, I've seen bad stuff happen, and that just kind of affects you. And so I turned my own self back. But I also contacted you
That's a good
exactly
point.
where I was. I knew how to get back. Went back the most direct way, and yeah, I got rained on a couple times. It wasn't torrential, but that was on me.
Sure.
If somebody was new to the group, I would
But you were
absolutely be
capable and you knew.
go shepherd them back.
Yeah.
They were bringing me
If
to
they're
us.
capable
I would
and they're
never
not having medical issues,
And the key is you communicated.
Yeah.
very clear what
So,
was going on and picked a good spot to turn back and all those things that may be beyond the skill of a newcomer. So I think as long as the ride guides know what their responsibility is for shepherding that person until they're safe again, at
Yeah.
a point, the adults are taking on a risky activity.
yeah. Yes.
But we can help them to have more fun and come back and do it again next week.
Right. Yes. So Julie's talking about, I'm reiterating because of the recording. So Julie's talking about a time she had to turn back, and she let me know she was turning back, or somebody to know, and then she contacted me afterwards. So that's something I would like to add to the beginner training, and to remind people of, to, if you turn back, let the ride guide know that you made it back safe, or the shop, or what have you. But not everybody is going to be capable and skilled, and if they're not, and they're nervous, or that they're new, I would ride back with them, or find someone else to ride back who doesn't need to lead, or guide. Okay, some quick things about what not to do. Please don't stop and direct traffic in the middle of busy roads. You don't have that responsibility. It's every rider's responsibility to decide for themselves when to cross a road. Tell them this is busy, there's a blind hill, we'll just go across 1 or 2 or 3 at a time and then regroup. Okay, so somebody can regroup. If it's busy, like 321 or something, some of us get stuck in the middle, some of us get through, and when we're heading towards Tremont, that's a good shoulder to stop on and to regroup.
And as we talked about this too, it's okay to, it's good to stop and make sure everybody gets across.
Right.
And maybe even help them, like, okay, I think it's clear, come on,
But
especially new
ultimately,
riders.
it's each person.
Yeah, it's each person's, yeah,
But-
yeah, it's on them. So don't feel, unless, if there's an accident or an incident, yes, then you want to make the scene safe, and tell oncoming cars to stop, if somebody's down, that's different. So you don't be bossy. We're not telling people what to do. Obviously, you guys got all this. You have the personal tact. The only thing is calling out clear. It may be clear for you, but not the next person. So just don't call out clear. Just let people know this is a blind hill, blind curve. And I don't take this responsibility to wave, not very often, to wave cars. Woody never does it, because what if you wave a car around and another car comes and they have a head-on collision because you waved them on? Okay, that's not a responsibility you want to take. I do it sometimes on heading up to Elkmont, if it's a straightaway, because sometimes, or even it could be in the middle of nowhere, it could be River Road, and they're like staying behind you because they've never passed a cyclist before or something, in which case, and it's a straightaway, it's obviously clear, nobody's there, and it's obvious they don't want to go around, they want to, then I might just go, come on, and they're like, oh, okay, and they go. But, I just say, just don't do it, just don't, it's not worth the risk. So, emergency plan, let's talk about this. So I don't know if you can see that dog. Anyway, yeah, so a ride leader, or ride guide, or ride volunteer, a sweep, knows and feels confident in using an emergency plan. Things happen. That's why they're called accidents, right? We don't plan for accidents. So let's talk about this emergency plan real quick. Does anybody have an extra? Okay. The plan part? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to talk through this. So as I mentioned one time that I've had to call 911, there's been a few times, dog incidents, poor Betty, for example. Okay, so important numbers for the phone. On Saturday, I've got cards. I'll have laminate cards with contact with these numbers here, and then on the back will be the ride guide contacts of the regulars. So me, Robin, and Avi, Caroline, and Maysoon for mountain bike and gravel. So everybody will get those. So this is adapted from the Bell Joyride. I contacted Julie. She said, yeah, sure. So I adapted it, added to it. But basically, the first thing you want to do is an accident. I'm going to talk about Mei Lin, who went down and cut her mouth open, had to have plastic surgery in a curb because she got hot. And it was Memorial Weekend. It went from like this kind of weather to 100 degrees, you know? And so she probably passed out on her bike and then crashed. So you want to create a safe scene. You know, a car's coming. You know, make sure somebody is stopping traffic. All the time, I went down once and, you know, there was Mel. Stop! Stop! You gotta wait. It's clear scene. You know, she did. It was awesome. You know, she was clearing the scene. I'm like, I'm so embarrassed, but it's okay. It doesn't matter, right? Somebody's hurt. You got to stop the traffic. Shelter the person from the elements, you know, if there needs to be shade or something. So this thing, do a first assessment of the situation. If they're not, this is the worst case scenario. Are they breathing, right? Are they impaired? Have they lost consciousness? Can they move their arms and legs? If you're not trained to do these things, don't do them, okay? Don't do them. There are Good Samaritan laws. I'm not sure all what they cover. First aid and CPR.
You're more likely to get sued if you do
If you don't do chest compressions, you know, that most people can do, right? But, you know, visible major trauma to a limb, dog bite or snake bite or seizures. So what's going on? Activate the, you know, call 911. And the emergency plan is on page 3, I think. It starts on page 2. Okay, if it's not that big of a deal, you know, nobody's losing a limb or, yes, Anne.
If you're not in a place with a cell phone signal.
A lot of times you're not in the place where there's a cell phone signal. Yeah, then somebody has to be a runner and go up and get a signal. So I'll use Betty Sonnenfeld's example. She got bit by a dog in a group. I saw it. A lot of us saw it. The dog is the chaser, so there's no cell signal. So the group, we just continued on until we got clear of the dog, and then I had to ride further up in order to get a cell signal. Then I called Sevier County Animal Control. They came out. You stay on the scene. You give a police report. You know, the rest of the group may need to go on because what if it's too cold for people to be standing around? We don't want others to get hypothermic, right? But you and the injured person at a minimum should stay. Maybe have somebody who saw it happen and to give the report to the cops, that sort of thing, and then ride back together on your own or call for somebody to come pick you up. Do not move an injured person. If they cannot move under their own power, they should stay where they are. And those of you who are nurses, please add or correct me if I'm misstating anything.
Person asks you to move them?
Let them move by themselves.
They need to move by themselves.
Robin thing, the way her leg was, she
Uh,
wanted me to, get it up off her handlebars, so she,
You weren't moving her,
oh no, not her whole body.
her whole body. Yeah, you were helping her get more comfortable, which I would consider being step 1 on that. So, you know, if you have first aid training, maybe it's something, maybe the person just fell over and they couldn't unclip, right? And they've got banged up elbows and stuff. You know, put something on that, or, you know, you, yeah, just wrap it up. Maybe they have gauze with them or something. If it's minor, go to step 5. Control the return to the activity. So when should a person get back on the bike and when should they go home? If they've hit their head, I don't care if they say they're fine, they need to go back. Just go back. Head injuries are too serious to mess around with. I don't care how much they complain and how embarrassed they are, they should go back. If there's deformity, swelling, continued bleeding, anything that just says to your gut instinct, it doesn't make sense to go on. You know, just go back. We want to, you know, at the end of the day, we just want that person to be well. They're not ruining the ride. Call for somebody to come and pick them up. You can call the shop. The emergency action plan, the person with the most medical training should be the person given the orders, right? So like Melissa Fury did, she was a nurse on the scene when Robin Sharp had her awful accident. You know, That person will decide whether to call 911. If you're trying to figure out whether you should call 911, just call 911. Okay? It's not a big deal. You're going to get help. Protocol. Somebody needs to stay with the injured person, monitor, comfort. Somebody should call the shop, right? Let the shop know, or you can get that card out and call me or somebody so we know. Call a couple of people. The more that know, the better, the more help you'll get. Somebody needs to go back for a car. Somebody preferably with a bike rack that can carry more than one bicycle. Yeah, their bike and the injured person's bicycle or injured persons. Contact that person's emergency contact. Usually they're, if they're conscious, just say, who do you want me to call? Just ask them. If they're not, then it should be on their road ID or it should be in their saddlebag. Just call the shop and say, hey, we've had this accident. They're unconscious. I don't have their emergency contact number. Who is it? And it's in the computer, okay? Or on a spreadsheet I make for them. Okay. In the instance of dog bites, I think I've already mentioned, get to a safe distance, animal control, follow the steps from the beginning to assess the situation, stay and report. With vehicles, you always have to call 911. If you have an accident with a vehicle, you call 911 because they have to come out and make a report. No report, no evidence that anything even happened, okay? Yep, and that's it.
Jackie, just to throw this in, it's also good to have a tampon, it's funny, or a pad, because pad can help with the bleeding.
Okay,
Tampon can help with bloodiness. So those two things would be good to carry with you.
okay, that's a good point. And somebody in the group might have one. So tampons or pads. What's that, Lisa? Hallie, what did Lisa say? Because I can't hear her. Oh, okay. So a pad or a tampon or something is good for absorbing or blood, from bleeding. Other comments or questions?
It might be a good idea to carry a couple gloves.
Yeah, to protect yourself. I think that's early on. So if somebody's bleeding, you might want to have, you want to cover yourself too. You don't want to touch the blood and get it on you. You don't know what that person has. Other questions? I think also incidents and accidents, this kind of goes more towards a mechanical thing. We should probably put out a list of good things to carry to fix mechanicals. So multi-tool, a couple things. We've had clinics on that before, so we'll go back and we'll clinic on that again, what to carry as a ride guide. You don't have to carry the whole shop with you, but somebody needs to have the right tool. If somebody breaks a spoke, if somebody breaks a cable, if they break a cable, you just tie it off to the bike. If they don't have brakes, then you call somebody to come and get them. If they can't shift, either call somebody to come get them or just ride back to the cars if it's flat, like River Road, that sort of thing. But emergency plan questions or more comments, discussion? It's going to start getting noisy in here in a minute, so it's 10:07. All right. I just put this in as a placeholder. More and more e-bikes are being sold and more people with e-bikes are riding with groups. It helps them to enjoy life, right? So, but in riding with e-bikes, I would have a conversation. That's another pre-ride conversation. Is anybody on an e-bike? You can usually tell, or they usually say, or people all are usually gathered around. Well, wow, look at that bike, So that's when you have a conversation with that person. Just say, let's talk about group riding for a minute. As an e-bike rider, 2 e-bike riders sitting right here, what is your advice for the group and for an e-bike rider when riding with e-bikes?
Well, my number one thing as an e-bike rider is just because you can doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
Just because you can ride in turbo mode and pass everybody and be in the front doesn't mean you have to. You have to, follow the rules just like the rest of the group. You don't pass people on a hill and say, see you at the top, and leave them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of common sense
Yeah.
for me as an e-bike rider. And
So.
as a rider in a group with an e-bike, I would, that's awful discouraging. And I let
Right.
my bike, it's hard to tell that it's an e-bike. So I let people know I'm on an e-bike. Like when I was leading a ride one time, and it was hard for me to figure out the pace of the group because I didn't have my mirror. Don't do that. If you're leading a group, make sure you have a mirror. And I knew people were going, wow, for an old lady, she's going really fast. So I let people know, hey, I'm on an e-bike. They're like, that's an e-bike. I'm like, yeah, that's why.
Okay. So as a ride guide, you want to know if there's e-bikes in your group, and you want to have that conversation with the person to say, well, I just want you to know if you would do a few things when you pass the group. Always pass on the left. Please let them know you're coming. Please, be respectful. We don't want to make everybody else feel bad because you're able to blast to the top,
And people do that.
and people do that. So have that conversation because we don't want the other ladies to feel, we can't control how people feel, but we can control how people, at least the advice we give to people, right? And hope that they take it. And if somebody at the end of the ride or in the ride is not listening to you, I've had that too on a Tuesday, Thursday ride, and I love them to death, but, I had to stop him multiple times, and he almost caused a wreck several times on one ride because he'd ride ahead and he'd do a U-turn in the road because he's the fastest in the group, right there in front of everybody in a blind curve or whatever, and you can't even see him. And there he is in the middle of the road coming at you, or doing a U-E, and that's when you have to tell me, because sometimes people need to be uninvited. That's the only incident that I've had to do that. I just passed him along to Steve Bright. I said, he's yours now. But yes, Julie.
Safety on bikes, I think is inversely related to experience. And so I think in general, it may not hold true, but that A riders probably see fewer accidents than the beginner sees because there's less experience in riding in group and how to move amongst a group riding
Sure.
and how much space to give. And I have very good friends who do a lot of miles who refuse to ride with people they don't know very, very well. They would never come to something like this, which is really sad because they have a lot to offer. But they feel it's not safe because they don't know people. They don't know they're not going to slam their brakes and cause a tumble. And we've all heard stories, and it's really hard to hear those difficult stories. But the newcomers, I think that bike handling among the group is as important as how to change a flat. And that may be something that we can work on going forward.
We are. We have bike handling clinics, and so we'll have one in April. Eddie is sick right now. He's got shingles, so I may have to find a different ride or clinic leader on that. But we will have one in April, bike handling. So, but then there's if they don't show up. You have to reiterate things as a group ride leader, and that's that pre-ride talk, and then keeping your eye out and watching for things. And I told them on Thursday, if you see something, say something. The ride guide can't be everywhere at all times. They're not they don't have an eye in the sky. So so it's okay to repeat these things. Whatever you feel like is worth talking about in a group ride before we roll, talk about it. Okay, so, and it doesn't have to be the ride guide. It could be someone else. You can make it a group conversation, Let's say, let's talk about, and you as a ride guide or a volunteer, you could say, here's some things that I've seen, and then you can open it up and say, what did I miss? And let other people chime in and make it a group conversation. So, so that nothing's left out and people have buy-in and they're paying attention and they're engaged. Nobody's engaged if they're just being lectured to, right? So, all right, it's getting noisy in here, so we're going to wrap it up. Does everybody feel comfortable, though? So what we have to do in follow-up is the Eventbrite app, the Zoom, and we'll go from there. We'll ride next Saturday. Thank you.